Hey there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and I wanted to thank you all so much for sticking with me over the past couple of days, or actually, I guess, week and a half. I know I did a lot to celebrate the 10 years, and I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I really hope that those little introductions and insight was fun, as well as, I guess, a little bit more personal. You guys got to know me and a little bit of how I think and try to work with my content. And as we move into the future, I hope that all of you guys will continue to stick with me for many, many more years to come. And now, before we get started on tonight's story, I want to bring you tonight's sponsor, and that is, you guessed it, Raid Shadow Legends. Have you dreamed of fitting an amazingly, truly AAA game right into your pocket, something that you can dive into and play at any time? Well, now you can, with Raid Shadow Legends. For those of you guys that are big Dark Souls fans and likes to get hard-ass games, Raid's a tough game. It's got 10 challenging dungeons, each with a super tough boss that requires specific teams and strategies to beat, and that's just the start. If you care about story, it's got an awesome, fully voiced campaign with 12 unique locations and 3 difficulties that you can dive into. And there's 13 unique factions, also has an incredible 460 champions, each totally unique with their own design, skills, and strength. Raid's super active, with over 200,000 clans fighting and competing right now. Mine is one, the MrCreepyPasta boys, with over 25 million players. Raid's the hottest mobile game around, and it's only getting bigger. You can combine all these things, you get a game that has basically endless content and infinite ways to play. And there's never been a better time to get started. Personally, what I like about the game is the micromanagement. I can actually just let the game autoplay in the background, but I get to actually see my champions level up, and I can customize them out with all of their weapons and armor, and a couple of other little added accessories that you can throw onto your champions. So what's new with Raid? Last month, Raid just released their biggest ever update. The main event is the Doom Tower. It's a giant tower with 120 floors, a bunch of secret challenge rooms, and 12 seriously badass bosses to take on. I've been waiting for this for a long time, and I just can't wait to dive in. So there's really never been a better time to start playing, and here's the best part. The Raid team are giving away a bunch of new free goodies, plus a super special champion to help you get started in the tower. Bulwark. He's absolutely awesome in clan bosses, and he's also going to be a huge help in the tower against those bosses. So if you want to get a huge head start in Raid, all you have to do is hit the link in the description, and if you're a new player, you'll get your free Void Champion Bulwark, 50 gems, an XP booster, some energy refills, and even an ancient shard as soon as you get in game. All this treasure will be waiting for you here, and the rewards will only be available for the next 30 days and only for new players. So you can find me in game under the name MrCreepyPasta. And if you're quick enough, you can even join my clan, assuming that it's not full anymore. It is just that easy, so just click the link in the description, and I'll see you in the game. And now, on to tonight's story. My God, boys, will you just stop? If you keep messing around, you're gonna miss your bus, and I can't afford to be late today. My spirit's far too defeated to attain the authoritative tone needed for the situation. Stewie and Colin are still wrestling on the floor. In all the commotion, I haven't noticed that Stewie still doesn't have his shoes on. Stewie, bud, where are your shoes? I ask in a panic. Probably left them at Brad's house, Colin remarks snidely. Who exactly is Brad? Why does he have your shoes? I asked my youngest son. Stewie looked up at me cautiously. Brad's mommy's new friend. But I didn't leave my shoes there, Dad, I promise. As I attempt to continue my conversation, I find my jaw already hanging open in shock. That's the third friend my wife's had this year, and it's not even the end of March, not to mention that the ones she's had while we were married. It sickens me to think about it. At this point, Colin comes running up with Stewie's battered shoes. They look utterly defeated and sad, the soles separating from the bottoms in disgust as the tongues sag lazily into the centers. Hey, sweetie, didn't your mom buy you new shoes? I gave her money for you and Colin's school clothes last week. Colin spoke up this time, incredibly eloquent for his 11 years of age. Mom bought us some candy during the weekend, then she dropped us off at Graham's and Pop's, while her and Brad went to Bike Week, he explained dismissively before grabbing his backpack and running out the front door. I'm still not down on the floor, assisting Stewie with his shoes. Dad, I can get it myself, he demands. All the other 5-year-olds tie their own shoes. An unwanted sigh puffs off my tongue before answering him. Not today, buddy, okay, I'm sorry. I know you're a big boy, but we're running late. Really late. My little guy is finally ready. Bus safety harness and all. He puffs his chest out proudly as he leaves the threshold of our home and steps into the outside world, ready to take on the day the Stewie Gray way. Unfortunately, the taillights of the kid's bus are barely visible in the distance as it pulls around the corner, leading away from the house. Colin is still standing on the porch waiting for us, so he wasn't visible from the normal stop. "Sorry, Dad," is the only response he gives. "It's not your fault, Colin. It's okay. Have your brother grab the change jar off the counter so I can get gas while I call work to let them know I might be a little late." After I punch in the number, I'm met with a shrill tone and an automated message. "We're sorry. Your account has been suspended. Please dial 611 if you'd like to make a payment. Goodbye." I draw in a breath and start yelling in frustration, but stop short as Stewie hands me the glass change jar. I light a cigarette to disperse some internal tension as we climb into the car, rolling all the windows down as if it would make a difference. It's a shallow and feeble attempt at justification. For right now, the half-full water bottle in my passenger cup holder sizzles and smokes as I drop the lit cigarette butt inside. Colin and Stewie giggle as the car rolls over the speed bump at the entrance to their school. A stout crossing guard with a no funny business look on her face waves us forward immediately. We barely get to a stop before she's opening the door for the boys. "Have a good day, boys. I love..." That's as far as I got before the car behind me honks, and the crossing guard slams the back door shut. About 5 minutes down the road, a glaring orange glow reflects off my glasses as the low fuel light comes on. The trembling gas gauge illuminates tauntingly in the corner of my dashboard as I pray to make it to the next intersection. My heart settles a little once I see the Circle K in the distance. Maybe today won't be so bad. The light ahead turns yellow. I'm convinced its sole purpose is just to fuck with me, if I'm honest. There's only one other car on the road right now, and they're right beside me. My foot eases onto the brake, a perfect representation of my day. The chances of me being on time crush flat along with the brake pedal as I settle to a final stop. I can't help but look at the car next to me. It's a pristine shade of red, not a smudge or a dent on it. A gorgeous couple, who looks to be around the same age as myself, occupies the front seat. A red-headed woman's delicate hand caresses the back of the driver's neck as they giggle into each other. Their clothes are stylish but comfortable. The latest iPhone model is perched inside the driver's side cup holder as the woman's rested comfortably on her lap. Intrusive thoughts flood my mind faster than I can keep up. I bet their gas tank is chock full. Must be fucking nice. They probably fuck each other every night after eating a meal taken from a fridge and a freezer full of food. Then they'll get cold and lonely at night, rubbing one out in pure frustration and loneliness just to fall asleep. It looks like they don't even understand what it's like to hurt for money. If I could be him. If I could be him, I bet I wouldn't have a care in the world. As soon as the light turns green, I attempt to mentally pull my head out of my ass. I turn the radio down and pass the other car so I can whip into the right lane. As I do, a devastating cacophony of horn honking, metal crunching, and glass breaking consumes me as the red car slams into the back corner of my vehicle, sending me spinning. An oncoming nearby oak tree is the last thing I see before my head slams into the dashboard. And I fade to black upon impact. I come to with a pounding headache, which only gets worse as I take on the scene before me. The red-haired woman's mouth is moving aggressively, but I can't hear the words over a ringing in my ears. Shattered glass litters my lap. I'm nearly blindsided by a throbbing pain in my left temple as my normal hearing kicks back into place. "Henry!" the woman screams in my face. "You've got to get the fuck out of here now! The cops will be here any minute!" What? My name's Todd, not Henry. The reflection of my cracked window reveals a man with a chiseled face and a broad jawline, the same one I saw canoodling in the car at the light. Green eyes that don't belong to mine widen in horror as my mind tries to process what happened. I look out of the broken dashboard and see a crumpled red hood. My battered Grand Marquis sat at the opposite end of the street, crashed into a tree and equally damaged with a smoking hood. But the actual fuck? A man identical to the me I've seen for the past 39 years is slumped over my leather steering wheel cover, blood flowing freely from a garish wound on the left side of his head. How hard did I hit my own? Nothing I'm experiencing is making any sense. The rearview mirror of the car I currently sit in dangles precariously over our laps, glass freeing itself from the crack, adding to the pile the window made. What's weirder is there's no abrasions on my face or my head. My arms and fingers are cut, but everything else looks perfectly fine. Why does my head hurt so much? I finally decided to give my full attention to the woman next to me that so frantically sought it. Who are you? Her eyes look sorrowful, alarmed at my question. She doesn't answer, only brings a shaking, manicured hand to my forehead in response. You okay, Henry? Oh no, don't lose it on me now. Jesus Christ. We don't have time for this, baby. She groans, opening her door and walking around to the side of the car. Move over, the engine looks fine. She orders as she shoves me into the passenger seat, making me wince and bring a hand to my temples in visible injury. The engine starts and I see the other me begin to lift his bloodied head from the wheel. But that's my car, I mumble feebly as she drives away from the scene. Yeah, that car's fucked. We're gonna stick out like a sore thumb. The woman snarls over the roar of the RPMs as she slams down on the gas pedal. Damn it! That means tonight we're gonna have to go 3 towns over and steal another one. Her words have a delayed response as I try to quell the agony on the left side of my scalp. Steal? What are you talking about? I finally gather the cognition to ask, why are you taking me away from my car? My head's bleeding. You need to call for help. She glances at me sideways, confused. Your head's fine, Hank. You knocked it when we hit the junker. You're just having a hard time remembering things. She placed a hand delicately on mine, and I fought the instinct to recoil in disgust. I don't like to be touched, especially not by strangers. My thoughts are interrupted by a banging resounding from the back end of the vehicle. The woman doesn't like that. Oh, hell, I was afraid she was going to wake up. Who? What's that noise? I ask. Do we have a flat? She shakes her head and mutters something under her breath. Boy, you really are fucked, ain't you? She comments wryly. That is our latest mark. Things went south towards the end there, and we need to take care of it like the last one. If she gets blood on the mat, then I'm gonna be pissed. Don't worry, she remarks upon seeing my own blood drain from my face. You enjoy it every time, I promise. It seems I've somehow switched places with a man that I've envied from the other car. The body of an obvious sadist. And if I'm in his body, then... A new thought surfaces, one more sinister than anything that the trunk of this car can contain. Oh my god. My boys! Oh my god, boys, will you just stop? After a few more miles down the road, we turned into a narrow driveway. Muffled squeals sound from the trunk, with every bump and pothole that riddles the driveway as we drive towards the house. The gut-wrenching feeling of doom intensifies as the house comes into clear view. Vines, weeds, and shrubbery consumes the porch entrance. Years, if not decades, of neglect and miscare scream in our faces. At one point, I'm sure this was a beautiful home. But the state it is in now tells me nothing good can possibly take place inside. A fungal-colored algae covers the roof shingles and shutters. The attic windows have been shattered, the glass left behind resembling an angry maw in the broken frame. Wooden patio furniture lay discarded in pieces around the front porch railing, and the lower-level windows had been boarded up. Despite the depressing state of the surroundings, a crisp welcome mat sits in front of the frayed front door. The red-haired woman gestures for me to go in first as we leave our respective sides of the car. As I turn back to question her, I see her pull a vial and syringe out of her purse. She draws the plunger back halfway, then pushes her thumb down. A yellow liquid spurts out of the end as she primes the syringe. Keep moving, Hank. I got this one. Just open the door for me and go lay down. She snaps as she retreats to the back of the car. Taking a quick moment, I survey my surroundings, trying to assess if it's possible to leave on foot. The winding driveway is long and exposed. Woodland tree lines of the fields on either side are too shallow to hide in. My body sags involuntarily against the wobbly porch railing as my head begins to pound. Under the mat, babe! the woman calls over her shoulder as she prepares to lift the, I'm assuming, now unconscious body from the trunk. Pop goes the weasel, she sings as the last bit of the stranger's body now leaves the trunk and hits the ground. My feet test the rickety steps with trepidation. Each of the 4 steps creaks at me in protest, as if warning me to stay away or at least stop what I'm doing. The crisp welcome mat lifts with ease, revealing a squared metal key underneath. Why the fuck would anyone even bother to lock this? I met with a smell of rotted wood and mildew the moment I opened the door. We, I guess now, must be squatting here. There are 2 makeshift beds that are pushed together in what at one time must have been a study or guest room. Yellowed mattresses sit atop red and black milk crates, fastened with zip ties to create box spring frames. I steal a glance out of the front door and revel that the red-haired woman is gone. A cylindrical trail leads from the trunk to around the back left side of the house. I don't know why the hell she made me go through the dramatics of unlocking the front door if the back is unlocked. A low hum starts to bore into the left side of my ear. My energy seems to wane the louder it gets. My head feels fuzzy and light. I desperately want to sit down, with the pull of sleep becoming stronger as I sit on one of the beds. The concern over a possible concussion fades further and further away. Worst case scenario, I fall asleep and don't wake back up at all. The motto, kill or be killed, feels all too real at this moment. And if I die in my sleep so someone else has a shot to live, so be it. I wake up with my mouth hanging open, coughing wildly as soon as I take my first conscious breath. Much to my sorrow, neither the best or worst case scenario has come to fruition. If I reach up to itch my chin, I notice the neatly trimmed nails and expensive watch. The heartbreaking realization is that I find myself in the exact same place and body as before I passed out. With the relief of my headache ceased, questions begin to flood my mind. Are they really rich? Or just a con couple? Why do they stay here if they have access to fancy clothes and cars? What is she going to do with that woman? Do I have time to save her? How could I have fallen asleep knowing someone was in danger? The rest of the lower level is empty. Stairs, beaten by time and neglect, render the upper levels utterly inaccessible. I'm surprised to see a note hastily taped to the fridge with a local supermarket sticker. Hank, I hope you're feeling better. I went out to the market to buy cleaning supplies and food. You deserve a home-cooked meal after what you've been through today. Don't go in the basement without me. Love. Georgia. So, that's her name. A heavy metal door looms forebodingly on the left side of the kitchen wall. A sliding lock and deadbolt sit on the right side. Whoever installed this is very intent on not keeping anyone from getting in, but to keep someone inside from getting out. The coat of white paint on the exterior has started to peel away, revealing rust-colored stains underneath. I can't help but think it's blood. Suddenly I remember the key in my pocket. The one that unlocked the front door earlier in the day. It feels strangely cold in my pocket, despite its resting place nestled against the warmth of my leg. Pulling it out, I hold the vain hope that it might be the same key that unlocks this door. It slides into the lock seamlessly, only hesitating for a moment before the lock springs free. A feeling washes over me, and I can't tell if it's satisfaction or regret. The light of the area behind me only illuminates a small section of the basement as the door creaks open, but unfortunately for me, it's more than enough. A cluster of humanoid figures squats in a huddle over something unknown. Tattered rags hang loose from their bodies. They emit high-pitched screams the second they see me. As the tallest one screams, a hunk of something flies from her mouth, landing on the floor in front of the stairway. Upon first glance, it seems like a piece of ham, but further inspection shows me a severed and chewed human ear. Head trauma or not, I gotta get the hell out of here. I run faster than I've ever ran in my life. A flood of headlights persists itself in the distance. I dive into the tree line just in time to see the battered red car driving back towards the house. My legs sag with the moisture of the evening dew as I blindly run through the woods. I only have a short amount of time before she sees that I'm not there and starts driving around looking for me, if one of the creatures in the basement doesn't get to her first. That is, for the life of me, I cannot remember if I closed that door behind me when I ran out. I want to say that I did, but I can't be sure. The haze that consumes my head is overwhelming as I stumble through the branches and leaves. Twigs discarded by nature stabbed through the soles of my shoes. Even through my delirium, it doesn't take long to realize that the further I run, the quieter the woods become. Not too long after I stopped seeing an animal at all, a ray of sunshine shows through the thinning trees like a beacon of hope. I'm too relieved to hear the familiar sound of cars speeding by. Each rotation of the tires slices through the left temple like a Ginsu knife. My knees buckle with exhausted uncooperation before I reach the roadside. The lids of my eyes become heavy as injury takes over, bringing me to my knees. And soon I'm feebly grabbing blades of grass. I inhale and exhale particles of dirt through my panting mouth as I fade out of consciousness. The room I'm in is freezing cold. The artificial lights behind my closed lids painfully unsettling. My hearing returns before my vision does. I try to make sense of things. An incessant beeping rings through the area that I'm in. Footsteps crescendo down the hallway and stop in front of me. I'm hoping it's someone who can explain what the hell is going on here. Dread manifests in a cold sweat across my body as I realize I could be back at the house. It smells too clean for that, though. The solitary set of footsteps takes a few more steps in my direction before turning left and walking past me. I hear the whoosh of a curtain being retracted as a man begins to speak. Hello there, Mr. He pauses as I hear him shift through some papers. Barton, he continues. That definitively gets my attention. Before all this shit happened, my last name was Barton too. My brain screams at my eyes to open, but I can't move a single muscle. Trying to distract myself, I start thinking about all the creepypastas I've heard about sleep paralysis over the years. I wonder if this is what that feels like. I don't get to wonder too long before a new voice enters the equation. Doc, the man says, call me Todd. Also, do you have something to drink? My throat's drier than a nun's sense of humor, he quips. A soda can clicks as the tab opens and the man greedily gulps it down. Oh, fuck yes, he screams. Ginger ale's my favorite. Could it be? There has to be more than one Todd Barton in this town, and I only vaguely recognize the voice. The first flutters grace my lashes, revealing the room to me with a strobe light effect. I saw fluorescent lighting first, rows of it. A solitary sink sits recessed into a counter. A dry erase board is hung above it on a wall that reads, Room 439, Nurse Joanne. A corded phone sits next to me on a table, followed by a hospital bed and a television remote. My ribs and shoulders are racked with sudden dry coughs, which means the attention of my neighbors. The same set of footsteps from earlier approach my side of the room, pulling the security curtain back in one fluid motion. Mr. Richard! Welcome back to the land of the living, the doctor jokes. How are you feeling? My mind woke up before my body did, I mutter uselessly, unsure of what to say. My name definitely isn't Mr. Richards. I know anything off-key that I say will only prolong my hospital stay, so I write it out. Yeah, that's what happens sometimes, he replies dismissively. You have a pretty serious concussion, and the cut in your scalp required multiple sutures. We gave you an anesthetic to help you sleep so your brain can heal. Normally, we discourage the state of unconsciousness in the event of a head injury, but by the time the driver found you, it was already too late. Hey, roomie! I hear what was once my voice yell from behind the curtain. What are you in for? He jokes, confirming my suspicions and fears. On one hand, I'm relieved that he's been here this whole time, not at my house. On the other, if he's here, then who's been watching my kids? I chuckle half-heartedly in response before the doctor draws the curtain back. You decent, Mr. Barton? Decent as I'll ever be, the voice responds. It stops short the second he lays eyes on me. The brain that thankfully still belongs to me sends a signal to the eyes that are not, to widen in terror as I take in the sight before me. The body I had taken residence in for the vast majority of my life now looked like an abused shell. When things were the way they were supposed to be, people often told me I had kind, smiling eyes. The two lifeless orbs I stared into now weren't that way at all. Now this parasite stares at me through blackened eyes from a broken nose. His lips were chapped and swollen. I'm horrified to see him feverishly pick at my skin with dirtied, ragged fingernails, looking down at the hands I occupied now. I realized I'd been taking care of his body much better than he'd been taking care of mine. "You clean up good, man," he remarked, leaning over his bed to look around the doctor that had now entered his half of the room. "Actually, Doc, I think I want to get some sleep. Can you close me back in there, bud?" The doctor dutifully closed the curtain before exiting the room. My head fills with a weighted agony as I sit up in my bed. I circle my ankles around, making sure they aren't injured before swinging my legs around the side of the bed. A sharp pain jabs into my left forearm, and I'm annoyed to see an IV pole holding a bag of saline, plus Lord knows what else, feeding slowly into my arm. As soon as I place both feet securely on the ground, I'm interrupted by a knocking at the door. A nurse bustles into the room, pushing a metal cart holding 2 covered food trays. "Did you have to use the restroom, Mr. Richards?" she asks, concerned, upon seeing my current position as she places the tray on my bedside table. "Matter of fact, I could take a leak," the other patient piped up. "Sorry, sir. Didn't mean to answer for you," he mutters, realizing the mistake he just made. "I'm good, thanks," I answer. "Just stretching my knees a bit, is all." The nurse seemed satisfied with the answer and walks beyond the curtain to the other side of the room. I hear him stop her as she places the tray down and whisper unintangibly something to her. "Okay, Mr. Barton, I don't see any dietary restrictions in your chart, so this one time. But don't be spreading it around. Patients are supposed to eat what's given to them at their meal times. Someone finds out I made a vending machine run for you, and then they'll all be asking me to do it." He audibly agrees and thanks her as she leaves the room. I hear him roll the table closer to himself and murmur, "Fucking Swedish meatballs and boiled cabbage. I eat better than this in jail." Once again, I painstakingly attempt to rise to my feet to confront my body's intruder. The motions are easier this time, however, the moment the weight of my standing frame registers in my legs, they buckle. It feels so surreal to me, wobbling baby steps towards the man who stole my life and body. The curtain slides across the metal bars smoothly, and I see my roommate sit up in surprise. Soggy noodles from the meatball dish hang loosely from his mouth. I can see hundreds of possibilities race through his mind as the reason I might be on his side. Maybe he's hoping I don't remember. "Okay," I begin, not wasting any time. "How the hell do we fix this? I got shit to do." He looks at me confused before answering slowly, saying each word as if speaking to a 5-year-old who is hard of hearing. "I don't know what you're talking about, dude. The meatballs really aren't that bad, I promise. Try them." "Don't try to be fucking cute," I snap. "You know exactly what's going on here. You don't even know your own fucking middle name. Guess what? I do, because it's mine. Now switch back." He rolls his eyes, giving up the ghost. "Hey, buddy, I didn't ask for this shit either. As far as I can tell, though, you got the better deal here. You get to drive my gorgeous car around while I got your total junker. And you get to fuck my gorgeous girl. As long as I've been in here, ain't nobody came to see you, so stop complaining and wise up. You ain't got it so bad." Fury coursed through my veins before I could calm myself down by taking solace in the fact that he didn't seem to know anything about my kids. The point is, I want what's mine. How do I fix this? Fuck's sake, I could be a serial killer for all you know. He laughs heartily at this, wincing in pain as chuckles jostle his ribs. Wouldn't begin to touch the things I've done. The man snarls with pride. Just then the nurse came back into the room, handing him a small bag before winking and leaving again. The smile that lights up his face both chills and warms me at the same time. I've never seen anyone so happy over a measly bag of peanuts. I looked into the eyes that had once been mine, and they were now filled with a malice I know my own soul couldn't possibly possess. He leans towards the side of the room that I occupy, still smiling brilliantly. "Hey there, neighbor. You want some?" As he says this, he rips the bag open and throws a palmful at me. Fucking rude, I think to myself. I pick up a stray peanut out of the shirt pocket of my hospital gown and go to put it in my mouth, but stop suddenly. My head feels overwhelmingly thick and fuzzy. The room begins to spin as I find it harder and harder to breathe. As I bring my hand to my throat, I see they're incredibly swollen, to the point where I can barely bend my fingers. My throat closes and I fall to the floor, hearing his maniacal laughter as I fade into unconsciousness. I wake up in the same bed as before, a throbbing pain radiating through my upper thigh. A different doctor leers over me this time. His eyebrows shoot up in relief over his mask to see me open my eyes. "You gave us quite a scare. I can't apologize enough. It clearly states in your chart that you have a severe peanut allergy. I have no idea how he got them. What an unfortunate mistake." He runs his frail fingers through thinning hair before continuing. "Oh, if it's any consolation, you've been upgraded to a private suite." My lips still feel as thick as rubber snakes, but I have to ask him before he leaves the room. "What happened to the man next to me?" He smiles gently and assures me that I'll have complete privacy before remarking, "He was discharged early this morning." With no life-threatening injuries, the hospital released me later on that evening. The phone in my pockets rifled with texts and missed calls from Georgia. Hopefully, by the tone of them, she wouldn't be too heartbroken if Hank doesn't make it back. I sure as shit won't go back there with those creatures roaming around. No, I made my mind up to end this one way or another. As much as it kills me, I hadn't gone to check on the kids. Not only would it confuse them, but there's a chance they'd be in danger if the other me saw that I was there. What the hell would a scumbag like that want with children, though? I mean, if anything, they'd had to be getting in his way by now. The dangers they could be facing stabbed at my heart like needle-pointed blades. I just have to keep going. If I stop long enough to let everything sink in, it'll fatally absorb me. I can't let that happen. Like depicted in the old television shows and Freaky Friday specials, I figured the only way to get out of this mess is the same way I'd gotten into it. I need to hunt him down, find him, and hit him. My car doesn't take long to locate, and I feel like I'm running out of time to save myself. I sit around the corner from my own house, cringing inside that someone else is living in it. It's torturous to picture Hank's spirit rifling through my drawers, using my toilet, emptying my fridge. I sit in excruciating wait until he decides to leave the house without the kids. I'd gotten my first glance that I'd had at them all week through the window earlier. They looked slightly bored and sullen, but otherwise unharmed. I looped my car around a side street to our block, knowing it would come back around to the stop sign the other Todd would have to use to stop at. Taking a deep breath, I squeezed my eyes shut, showed my foot on the gas, and T-bone him as hard as I possibly can. My mind recognizes where it is before my eyes even open. My eyelids illuminate with bright hospital room lights, and something feels extraordinarily off. I hadn't gained back enough of my mental faculties to place exactly what it is yet. Beeps and whirs of machines drill through my subconscious, slowly forcing me awake. I think that my medical bills would be through the roof, and jokingly hoping that whatever injury had landed me there would just kill me and get it over with. I didn't carry that wit for long, as my mind struggles to recount the events for the past week. I dreadfully realize precisely what's wrong with me. I have absolutely no feeling from the waist down. The interruption of the doctor into the room is a welcome relief from my spiraling thoughts. "Welcome back, Mr. Barton," he jokes. Then occurs to me that he'd referred to me by my actual name. I looked down at my hands and was beyond elated to actually recognize him. "A couple of men who would like to talk to you. They're right outside. I'm going to let them in now for a bit. I'll be back to check on you soon and we can discuss your prognosis," he explains gently. My stomach drops to see 2 uniformed officers enter the room, closing the door behind them. Good afternoon, sir. First of all, we want to say that we're sorry for all that you've been through. The descendant's available for questioning, but the damage on the vehicles shows that this is an intentional hit. The officer has a booming voice despite his short stature. The tag on his chest reads Deputy Collins. I hold up a weary hand to interrupt him. Descendant? Doesn't that mean... Without skipping a beat, the deputy continues. He passed away on the scene, sir. Tell me, does the name Henry Richards mean anything to you? People around here call him Hank? I shook my head, confused. As much as I hate to lie to a law enforcement officer, if anything came to light later on, I can easily blame a head injury or a concussion. Maybe he had a medical event at the wheel. I stammered weakly. Unfortunately for us, we'll never know. Even with an autopsy, the damage from the wreck was severe. It's entirely possible that you were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Vehicular suicide, it isn't all closed garages and radiator hoses anymore, Collins responded. Thank you for your time, sir. They leave behind their contact card before exiting the room. I can see the silhouette of the doctor on the other side of the door waiting to come in. He explains to me that I've suffered a spinal injury. And even with intense physical therapy, the chances of me walking again are slim to none. As much as I'm sure it will alter my life completely. At this moment, I'm just happy to be myself again. After 3 long weeks in the hospital, my ex-wife ended up being the one to pick me up and take me to my home. My insurance company thankfully had covered everything I needed for my aftercare. Brad was a thing of the past, and as much as I wanted to hate her, I needed her help to raise the boys. If she was willing, so was I. The first week home, I sat on the back patio in my new wheelchair. The urge to stretch my legs was unbearable, but it wouldn't have done me any good. Someone could have hacked them off and used them for canoe oars, and I wouldn't have felt it. The dull roar of the boys playing in the backyard soothed my weary soul. I may not have come out whole, but I won the battle for my body and soul. I closed my eyes, basking in my blessings. From the back of my brain, just above the ears, came a chuckling voice. You're not alone, Todd. I'm here too. My stomach flipped, causing me to vomit down the front of my shirt helplessly. Fear hammered through my heart like a jackhammer with recognition. It was Hank's voice. Hey there, kids. Thank you so much for listening to tonight's story, and I wanted to tell you thank you, for listening to me at all. I'm actually coming up on doing this for 10 whole years. Come January 4th, I will have been doing YouTube for 10 years. So that's a hell of a thing, man. And honestly, it means nothing without all of you. So thank you for that. Thank you for listening on YouTube or on the podcast. I also want to give a very big thank you shout out to all of you guys out there on Patreon. If you guys want to check out patreon.com/MrCreepyPasta, you're able to support the show, support me, support my cats, support, being cool folks out there, like people like these. Jordan Alexander Sanchez, Mr. Thud, Ken Lando Higuchi, Chompski, Bobby Karman, Nico Kaeo, Tristain Pelton, Chance Burnett, Diana Kraus, Raven Hart, 1-800-Nightmare, King Hades F13, Unknown Nobody, Joshua Mcmeekin, Michael Scharbrough, Kazan, ThisIsMyRealNameNoShit, Jason VB Wilson, InfernalOne, Lilwulfgaming, JimboTheHutt, Caspian, Jordan Nells, Hades Nephew, Jordan Wayne Deckard, Bradley Leipe, and Charron, Acid System, Mike Bullock, Prozac and Pancake Appreciation Society, Brian Arce, Cryptic Nightmares, Brianna Wright, Someone You Love, S-Man, Kiri the Sloth, Thomas Burgett, Liam Newman, Sky Harbor, Caleb Dougal, Nina Smith, Rafael Rodriguez, The Ginger Bros, Aaron Stormcrow, Daniel Polson, and Corey Kenshin. Thank you guys so much for your support on Patreon. I really can't thank you enough. And everybody who's down there in the description, thank you guys so much as well. And everybody who's not on either of those tiers, who just have $1 on Patreon, I can't thank you guys for making these past 10 years incredible. This entire time I've ever spent on YouTube, on podcasting, everything amazing. And all of you who are at home listening, thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you all have a wonderful, happy holidays and sweet dreams.